Hello. Welcome to Decorating Pages podcast. I am your host, Kim Wanup. Happy middle of summer. We're hitting it, people. Middle of the summer. Half of the year is gone. It's crazy town. But I have a super episode for you today with set decorator Rosemary Brandenburg. I'd have to say a little bit of a legend in my world. Known for her incredible work on projects like the Superman Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, Public Enemies, Hancock Transformers, The Thin Red Line, Psycho, Amistad, The Peacemaker, The Rock, Casper, Outbreak, Flintstones, Hocus Pocus. I mean, it goes on. And Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker. It's incredible. So we're going to get to that. I talk a lot about Superman, and then we get to a little bit of This Is Your Life, which is great. And some really great Tarantino stories at the end. I kept her way too long. She asked me how long the interview was going to be. I told her 45 minutes to an hour, and then I kept her almost double that. But good for you. You get to listen to it all. So how about that? Summertime is breezing by. We just had the Emmy nominations. I'm not going to get into them on this episode. I'm going to give you a whole episode next week of the Emmy nominations and for production design, and maybe give some predictions. I think I'm just going to go balls out and give you some predictions this year of what I think is going to win and put your money on. Some tight competition in those production designs, but we will get into that. I can't believe half the year is already over. I ended the show with the second season of Man on the Inside. So I've had 2 weeks off, which has flown by. And I have to say, I went to the movies. I saw Superman. I was going to go see F1 or Jurassic Park because AMC Theaters is having half off on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, if anybody has some time. I didn't get there because I just have so much to do that I can't even get to the movies when I want to, even though I'm off. But I'm enjoying the time with my kids and their summer, and I am going on a trip to Italy with my family for the next 2 weeks. So you'll be hearing episodes. I'm going to plan them all out. I have Emmy-nominated set decorator Heidi Miller coming up, who is fantastic for her work on Jimmy Kimmel Live. And then have Kalina Ivanov, who is nominated for her work in The Penguin. And I already have an episode with her and Rich Murray talking about The Penguin. So if you want to go back and listen to that, that is awesome. A great interview, I must say. If you're thinking of your voting and everything, seriously, go back and listen to that episode and watch it. Watch it on the YouTube channel because there are some fantastic sets. If you haven't watched The Penguin, I'm a huge Penguin fan, and I'm hoping that they are recognized. But I'll tell you next week. How that's going to go. And then I have Allison Gartstone, who is the designer of Bridgerton. So we're going to talk to her about her work, and that fantastic looking show is nominated also. So those are the episodes coming up. Let's get to, I'm not even going to do what Wanna Watch It. I have watched so much stuff. I'm going to get into that next week. I've watched a lot of great movies. I've gone back, even Ishtar. I've even watched Ishtar, and I'm going to tell you, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So yeah. But in this episode, I sit down with, again, I would say legendary set decorator, like a Jan Pascal, set decorator Rosemary Brandenburg, whose career spans everything from superhero blockbusters, recently Superman, Spider-Man, Star Wars, to beloved classics like Hocus Pocus and Amistad and Mission Impossible. I mean, I went over just a tad of the list of her amazing work. Rosemary opens up about her creative process behind decorating these icons, that Superman was a childhood favorite of hers. And we talk about transforming a historic bus station into the Daily Planet, the timelines and the budget constraints that she worked with, fabricating so much for this project, especially in the Fortress of Solitude, which I always love. I love Fortress of Solitude. She takes us behind the scenes of Superman and shares delightful stories, I gotta say, including little Easter eggs and color palettes and all that. We then hop into a who this is your life type thing, and we talk about the amazing directors and the designers that she has worked with in her career, and just kind of a not kind of a quick pace. This movie, what are your thoughts? What do you remember about it? Type thing. So I hope I had to do it. I had her here. I had to talk to her about her work. I'm a fan of her work. She has inspired me, and I know that she has inspired others. I've known her for quite a while through the SDSA, Set Decorator Society of America. I believe that's where I met her first. And she's an inspiration. So I hope you enjoy.
Coordination project and lines, and it's just a different. Yeah.
Alrighty, let's get started. While I was looking at the last couple films that you've done Superman, Spider-Man, Star Wars. I mean, in the superhero world, who's your favorite? Who is your favorite to decorate for?
Well, I've always loved Superman, just as a
Yeah?
character,
Oh, nice.
since I was a kid. I mean, since it was the guy with the baggy tights and the potbelly and the big chest. And I just loved him. He was in black and white. I used to watch him in reruns. I mean, I'm not so old that he was first run, but he was not far after, and I loved him. I mean, I've always loved Superman. He's a great character.
I
Um,
I love the Donner one. I love the Donner films, and I've showed those to my boys. So I've watched that Superman movie, the Christopher Reeves, a couple times in the past year. And so I was interested to see where Superman would fit in your in your world there because I love it too.
well, and I guess maybe, a lot of the times, the superhero movies I've been coming in and having to do the third or the ninth or the whatever. And that's like a whole journey of diving into this stuff that's actually pretty challenging.
Yeah,
So this was an opportunity. This was stated as an opportunity to just start over. It was not meant to be a sequel of anything,
right,
I mean, who doesn't know the Superman story? I certainly do.
right.
So that was pretty great. I mean, yeah, we looked at the Donner series, and we looked at some old comics that were sort of super classic with a lot of rich color because this was going to be a whole different look.
Yeah. It certainly is more the tones are deeper, but not as dark as the Man in Steel ones. I felt like those were too dark and even in story, but with this, I also really appreciated that it wasn't really his origin story, which was nice. Like you're coming in and they set you up in the first minute of 3,000 years, 3 million years ago, 3 minutes ago. Like it's a great way to like start this film. How you shot in Atlanta, correct?
We shot in Atlanta. We shot in mostly at a movie studio
Mhm.
south of Atlanta called Trilith, which is just a studio, rent a studio. But we had huge stages there, probably six that constantly turned over, lots and lots of sets.
Mm.
And then we shot a little bit in Metro Atlanta, not much, and then a good chunk down in Macon, Georgia, which is in southern Georgia, for the Daily Planet, which was shot at a bus station that's a historic bus station, and we had to totally revamp it to be the Daily Planet. And then that was a big revamp. And then we also shot, where Clark Kent was brought up, like Ma and Pa Kent down there on a little farm. And then we went up to Cleveland, Ohio, which we made into urban metropolis.
Mm.
And then the last day was in Cincinnati. And the reason for going there was because they have a beautiful classic Art Deco train station. And that train station was drawn into the very original Superman comics as
Oh wow.
the Justice League headquarters. So we're the first movie to take advantage of that. And of course, the reason was because we were going to be in Cleveland anyway. And so we got to go there.
Oh,
And we shot interior and exterior there.
I was so bummed I could not find any photos of that, but I definitely wanted to ask you about that, but I could not find any online photos of that set yet. But what a great little like Easter egg in there for that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
great.
and there was a lot of nods to the first family, in fact, there are, you know, children, grandchildren of those guys that actually were on set a lot. And they were lovely people and they were really excited to be included. And it was such, I mean, I don't mean to say anything against the way that the Man of Steel series did it. That was their absolute choice to make him darker,
Yeah.
stronger, tougher stories. That's a perfectly good choice. And it was very popular with lots of people. And people, you know, till briefly before the film our film was released, were like, "Oh, you're never going to do what we
Right.
did justice." And they're going to have their point of view, but this was just a different take on it, and
Yeah.
I think quite successful, obviously. And a lot of other people were really ready for a brighter, more optimistic feeling, and that shows.
Oh, definitely. It's definitely more lighter and I
Yeah.
think more relatable. It's a relatable Superman you have here. He's back to these vulnerabilities and everything that he has.
Yeah,
Um, in
that's it right there, which some people were really slamming when some of the early PR came out because you could see he was in pain.
Yeah,
You could see he was anguished. And, everybody's like, oh gosh, here we're going to have a weakling, and of course now everybody's like, oh, what a great choice.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I was wondering about the color palette in the Daily Planet, like all of the oranges that you have,
Yep.
and even working with and I mean costumes really has a lot of oranges going on. Was
Yep.
I know that we're in present day, at least I'm assuming, but was that to give it like a different era type look?
Well, it's a timeless era. It's not stated exactly what year it is
Right.
on purpose. It's Everybody has a fairly classic look. The sets have a nod to mid-century stuff. The locations are picked with that in mind too. There's a classicism to the whole thing. So yeah, I mean, we had very elaborate color conversations and very specific directive. And Judiana Makovsky, the costume designer, who's just amazing at this stuff, she was part of every one of those conversations. So we all worked together, our departments, Dec, everything, upholstery, textiles, paint. I had a wonderful paint department headed up by a guy named Gabe Harrington, who, we would work out these swatches and we'd test them, we'd do tests, and we'd all get together with the production designer and say, is this the right pumpkin? And then upholstery too. We did a lot of upholstery in all sets, but it's certainly in this one. Those rolly chairs. There was a fellow who
Nice.
emailed the Set Decorator Society the other day asking, where can I buy a chair like that? I need it. It was like, good luck, buddy.
Yeah, yeah.
That was yeah, we found the frames someplace, ordered those up, but everything else, we actually repainted the frames, put new wheels on, completely upholstered the pads. Actually, I do think we sent him the fabric and he was good enough to
Oh,
upholster
that's good.
in a particular case. But we bought lots of this color fabric and made these crazy little seats on the ends of
Yeah,
the.
these little like banquettes
Well,
and
this is a
tents.
little clue, a little insider tip. This is an old bus station, and we
Oh.
could not remove the huge benches
Oh wow.
that were there already.
So the
So
desks are built around them then?
yeah, well, so our art director, Dominic Silvestri, came up with this idea of building the desk pods on top of them and then revealing the end of the bench as a little capper. And it worked very well. It was a great idea. We did have to polish up the ends and make them look great, and we did. And so that's a little insider tip. And then we when we were working out the ground plan of this vast space, we came up with these little tripod desks that were like Y-shaped,
Mm-hmm.
uh, out in the open space, which would make it easy to circulate, give you an obstacle, but not too much of an obstacle because there were a lot of crosses in the space. And yeah, that was a really complex set. they paint, not set deck, but the art department made these huge murals on a side. I don't know how much they really showed, but on one side and the other side were these windows. We had to make these giant blinds because their blinds were completely destroyed from years of sun down south. Anyway, there was an enormous amount of work in here. And of course, that huge globe wasn't there. The reception desk wasn't there. Um, there was a ton of work in here. And we did, as you can it does show in the film the amount of detail
Oh yeah.
that we
Even
did for desks. And every single desk was like,
I mean, every desk is layered.
there's the Gothic cat, the gossip columnist, and the arts people, and the sports reporter, and the Jimmy Olsen's photographer desk, and
Yeah.
who was at the world desk, who was the opinion writer. We had all that worked out. I mean, some of it shows and some of it doesn't, but that's what we do. We
Yeah.
just do intense amounts of detail.
Well, it just helps too that you're not in the monotony of like, oh, let's dress another desk. When your dressers sit down or when you sit down and say, well, this is a journalist for sports, then you know, like, oh, well, let's open up the sports page. I mean, it helps us, even if it's never seen, as we all know. But it's a huge space. So, what was your prep on the film?
Well, I was on the movie for about 10 months,
Mhm.
and my prep was probably half of it,
Four.
I can't remember exactly, but 5 or 6 months, and then the filming was 5 or 6 months. I can't remember which way it went,
And
but half and half, more or less. Yeah, there. It sounds like a lot of prep to people. I just was
it's
talking
not.
to an SDSA meeting yesterday with a younger set decorator who had like, oh, I had 9 days for a movie, tier
Yeah.
one film. I was like, my eyes popped out. That's enough for me to like,
Yeah.
start figuring out a budget and hire a couple of people, and start absorbing all the research that's been done. I mean, that I haven't done anything of that shortness for a long time. I mean, we the prep is very intense. There's you're involved in a lot of design discussion. I have a whole department of designers as well. I have my own graphics team,
Fabricators.
set designers, my own illustrators, um, and they're working too to draw things and make things and all that stuff, as well as assistant set decorators, buyers, uh, set deck coordinator, lead, and lots of builders, whether it's welders, prop makers. In Georgia, it's a little more relaxed, so you don't have to be quite so careful about the lines in terms of using
Right.
only people who are classified as prop makers because it's a mixed local, right? So, but we
Plus,
had some
you've
really, really
worked there
talented.
before. Well, luckily, you've worked there before. You know some people who you want to bring on, and that helps too because some of your prep is dedicated to finding a good supportive team for this
Yeah.
venture.
Yeah, and happily, I've worked also with well, people there, but also Jason Beddick, my super key lead man, who's worth his weight in gold in putting a team together in terms of the nuts and bolts side of things, bringing quite a number of gang bosses from LA as well as gang bosses from Georgia, and in this case, we had in mind to bring even more gang bosses from LA, from Local 44. But of course, there were some budget constraints. It was a time of contraction of budgets,
Mm.
which it's probably still is. So, but we did very well with our Georgia team as well. And then when we got to Cleveland, we had a Cleveland team. So it's like it was quite a vast army.
Well, that too, because you're prepping and shooting and then moving a whole company across states. I mean, there's a lot of logistics to go through there and prepping that before they get there while
Yeah.
still, being on a
Yeah, so
daily film set.
that's how I use the assistant set decorators though. We slice and dice kind of do it by the schedule and to some extent by their area of specialization. But the people I had were excellent. For
Mm.
example, Monica Monserrate, who is from Puerto Rico, who I met years ago when I worked on Rum Dyer. She's come to Atlanta and worked with me several times.
Mm.
Last time was the time before this was Guardians of the Galaxy. We also did, um, we did a pretty substantial movie in Puerto Rico together, and then she came back and did Superman. And we had another person from Atlanta named Liz Ayala, And I mean, these are really talented people. Liz Ayala helped me with the Macon set, the Daily Planet,
Mm.
and Monica helped me with, for example, Lois's apartment, the Baravian Palace.
The Palace.
And then those sets were done early enough that she zoomed off to Cleveland to prep that for me. And, we're in touch all the time.
Yeah.
But I can't possibly be in all these places at once. So that really is non-functional. So I would zoom up there when I could and, fly up and check things out and have conferences and So that's kind of how it goes. It's like a whole leapfrog.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Because once they start, once prepping, but once they start shooting, really, you're not shutting down unless Superman gets hurt.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but there were times when they would be in a big set that was done and established, and I could run off, or at least, and there was a couple of sets that were a few super fantasy sets, like the Pocket Universe, or just on stage flying around in front of a blue screen. That I could run away, not for very long, but make it a long weekend, go on a Thursday, work with everybody Thursday afternoon, Friday, probably Saturday too, and then collapse and then get up and work with them again on Monday and then zoom back. So that's how it kind of went.
I'm assuming Lois's was a build.
Yeah, this is a stage set. There was trans lights outside. We had blinds on the windows. Lois was, it was quite an operation getting everything. There's a lot of Easter eggs in the set, and there was a lot of special requests and demands and special artwork. And she had her Pulitzer Prize winning article up over the mantelpiece and her Pulitzer Prize next to it. And even the arrangement of the books became a big back and forth, whether they should be really neat, whether they should be really messy,
a lot of books,
whether they should be in the middle. I mean, that was something. And then there was at one point we had a lot of plants in there because we thought she would like that. And then, oh no, she doesn't have time for that. They're gone. So, it was an interesting journey, and there was a lot of input, and it was an early set. So it was important to everybody. She came in, Lois herself, Rachel Brosnahan, is a wonderful a person and actress and very involved. And she gave us lots of wonderful notes. They came in for an early rehearsal period before shooting and even began. And she had a lot of fun with this apartment, and she gave us lots of notes. So that was fun.
I didn't notice it in the film, but when I looked at these photos, is this a framed picture of him skywriting Lois?
Well, not Superman, but it is.
Oh.
It is a skywritten Lois. Yeah. So as though somebody has written Lois in the sky, but not Superman.
Oh, other lovers.
Even ever think of that.
Other lovers are writing in the sky.
Yeah, I mean, it was just.
She gets around.
Maybe because she won the Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah, that's true. I did see that in the film. I don't have it on here, but I do love the layered and the how much of the books tell the story of Lois in the film, and how comfortable her place is, and the different textures that you used, and the palette is a little bit darker, but it doesn't seem heavy. Like the furniture doesn't seem heavy or anything, but it is a darker palette.
Yeah, I don't know that any of us were prepared for quite how dark it was going to end up, lighting wise, but it did work in the end. The dark green sofa or dark blue green sofa, blue green was a leitmotif throughout the film, but for several of the sets. But it's we found a sofa and completely reupholstered it and changed the height and blah. And then, believe it or not, that little chair is straight out of Warner Brothers.
Believe it.
And the little upholstered chair, and the chair that Clark Kent is sitting in, I got at the sale from Faux Library.
Oh,
yeah.
So you brought a truck from LA of dressing?
Oh yeah, many. Yeah, we brought a bunch of stuff from LA, but that was mini trucks from LA, but
Yeah.
that was just the beginning sprinkle, really. It was a very large warehouse filled with stuff.
Mhm.
And there were a lot of sets in this movie. So
Oh, yeah.
it's like domestic, science fiction, uh, exteriors, all kinds of stuff. We had we had full shops in our warehouse, drapery shop, fabrication shop, paint shop, as well as the usual storage and, craft elfie kind of things going on. So it was a hub of activity, and it's a very large space. Right next to Effects, who we collaborated with very heavily because they built a lot of things for us as well. So there was plenty of money filtering through the set deck department into the economies of Los Angeles and
See, we love
great
that.
state of Georgia.
We love spreading the wealth when we can.
Yeah.
And then you have the sleekness of Clark's apartment or Superman's apartment. And I mean, there's only really two views. You don't see much in here. Talk about darkness, but I get it because they're looking outside, and you have these beautiful like translucent drapery or sheers on the windows. Was there a lot of talk about like as minimal as we can with Clark? Was that the note? Like what was?
Yeah, absolutely. The note was he never spends any time here. This is almost like a cover apartment,
Mm.
because he just generally would fly up to his Fortress of Solitude in the icy north or south. I suddenly can't remember pole.
North.
But yeah, the idea was he's hardly ever here. It's really just make sure he has an address so nobody figures out he's Superman. And yes, lots of discussion about those shears and just how heavy they would be and exactly what position they would be in, because of course, exactly where he was going to fly in the window was very much of a discussion.
Right.
And then, it's established right in the beginning that they've had a relationship for a few months. And so she has a key and she just comes in and makes him a cup of cocoa when he's having a very rough day.
Yeah. Rough week. I think he's had a rough week.
Rough patch.
I love that you have blue dish soap in there. Like every detail is like so well thought out in this film. And I mean the design of this too of even the starkness in his apartment and the white in the background almost mimicking his Fortress of Solitude and the blues and the whites and keeping him cool, and it really says so much
Yeah, I
with
mean,
that
it
scene.
was absolutely meant to be just your kind of high-rise condo, typical kind of cabinetry, although not very many places have that gorgeous blue of a cabinetry, but there you
Yeah.
go.
I was trying to think. I mean I only saw like Man of Steel maybe once, and Superman I've seen, but I was trying to think. I think this is the first time we see Superman eating because he eats a bowl of cereal in Kansas.
You could be right. I hadn't clocked that.
Because I was looking at this and I was like, oh, I guess the fruit's there for Lois, and I was like, oh wait, he's eating cereal. Oh, he's drinking cocoa. I was
Yeah, no, he's normal. He
yeah.
does everything that humans do. Yeah, we've had a long discussion about what food he would have on the counter, and we decided he would have apples and bananas because he's healthy.
Right.
He's wholesome.
Yeah.
So
The
yeah.
discussions you never thought you'd have in life is that's the life of a set decorator. It's really
Oh, I have those discussions constantly.
yeah. Yeah.
That's
Never
that's
thought we'd argue that, but here we are.
well, let there be. And he just doesn't really use the kitchen much,
Mm.
but he loves hot cocoa,
Oh yeah, who doesn't?
right? That's what.
I skipped over this one, but I wanted to go back to this chair, which I'm assuming you had made in the Fortress of Solitude, and that huge desk and everything that's there. It's not quite a desk. I don't know, it's like a power station. I don't know what to call it, but you're touching a little bit about the fabrication and everything and the amount of detail that goes into it and the amount of, prep time needed to get all this done beforehand. Do you ever struggle with those? Like, was it like, oh, we got that seat in there in the last minute? Or was it, do you find that I don't know, we're all on time and it's all moving along?
Yeah. Well, let's just say that the Fortress of Solitude fabrication elements were a collaborative effort between many departments. including special effects, set dressing, upholstery, set, practical lighting, as well as the people that made the robots, Legacy,
Right.
because there was a whole conversation about that these buttons that they push had to fit into their robot fingers.
Oh,
So,
wow.
the robots, they had one suit there as a reference, obviously, then they were animated in visual effects, the robots. But there were people, in dot suits pretending to be robots, but they couldn't do all of the activities. Anyway, long story short, yes, it was very last minute on those particular pieces. Uh, there were certain departments that fell a bit behind. It was, we had a very, very skilled art director working on this set named Alex McCarroll, who is sort of well known for these complex geometric sets and spaceships and things like that. And he is the one who made sure that this was actually drawn and illustrated, the table, the big desk, and this spaceship chair. And it was, let's just say it was really complicated.
Yeah.
It had many layers. If you looked at it from the side, there was this sort of translucent layer that you could see these particular sci-fi bits and parts. I can't remember if there was a shot that really showed all that stuff that we did. Of course, the thing had to spin, turn, go up and down, assume different angles depending on the healing rays of the sun that were required. The upholstery itself was multi-layered with a particular kind of vinyl, and then a translucent kind of net mesh,
You
and
could
then
see it.
quilted.
Yeah.
That was handmade and hand designed, and 8,000 tests trying to figure out exactly what colors of silvery blues everything was going to be. So, it was and then at the last minute, they wanted even more light, especially around the head area. So our fixtures department was under the gun. I mean, there were some all-nighters pulled at this place, let's just put it that
Yeah.
way. And yes, it was very late.
Oh, I know. I mean, I know from doing just for all mankind and fabricating these types of chairs or like dashboards full of stuff. It's an army of people who need to be involved. And you think that it's just a simple design or we'll just do this. And then it's like, but the fabric has to be higher than the light pan on this and this. And then everything sort of, there's just so many layers to getting one piece of set dressing done sometimes. It's really incredible.
I was just looking through some shots over the weekend, looking for some fun crew shots, which I still haven't put it on social media. But there's one picture of this chair with, like, I swear, 20 people working on it all at once. Just between the turntable below it and the little nerdy detail, and putting in lights and
Yeah.
testing the buttons. And oh God,
Yeah.
it was a lot of concentrated effort.
Was it comfortable?
Yeah, it was very comfortable.
Was it a nap spot? Did it be after they were done with that set? Was it a nap spot? Because that's what a lot of things turn into with crew.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. The chair is meant to rise up out of the floor when he comes, so it's not there all the time.
Hmm.
So there wasn't much napping in it because it was resting on the floor outside the set half the time. But we actually, as a part of the initial prototyping process for this thing, we actually had the effects department took the drawings, translated them into a kind of CAD program that they could send to their special robotic carving machines,
Oh yeah.
and they had it
Fancy.
cut out of bead foam, out of a dense kind of bead foam, so that everybody, including David Cornsweet, the actor playing Superman, could lay in it. Everybody could look at it. The director could sense it, and we could decide if it was the right proportion, if it needed to grow 10%,
Oh well.
10%, what the height should be when he first gets in it. We've, one of the things about James Gunn, the director, is that he can be very, very precise on the day about his requirement for exactly what the interaction of the actors with these kinds of pieces of dressing. So that was a very useful exercise, because I can't remember which way it went, smaller or bigger, but it was kind of a big deal because it went, I think, 10 or 20%
Oh wow.
larger, smaller. And that's one of the things that put a little bit of a monkey wrench into the works, because it ended up adding a lot of redrawing time, on, because the effects had their own people. The effects department, led by incredibly talented Dan Sudik, had their own people who did those kinds of drawings, and that takes time.
Oh
And
yeah. Yeah.
it's a really complex process. So, I mean, to have all those bits and pieces and parts,
I
you
mean,
can, it's not like the easy button. Oh, 10%, 20%.
yeah, no.
Sounds like it should be, but it isn't.
No. Better in prep than on the day, but yes,
True.
it is still a big deal. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just so impressed with everything in the Fortress of Solitude, because the different versions of it in the different films are always so interesting to me, of how it's interpreted, and I loved it.
Yeah.
The complete opposite of Fortress of Solitude is his own bedroom. How much fun was that, doing doing
Yeah.
content?
This was a funny little place that, Locations found for us, down in, oh, I can't even remember the name of the little teeny weeny town down in southern Georgia. But the idea that the director had was that it was a really ordinary, because the other movies had a rather idealized farmhouse,
Mm,
sort of, you know, Martha Stewart-y farmhouse.
yeah.
And this was meant to be really, really people who just raised cows and were very basic and did not have a dime and just were the biggest hearts in the world. But, they weren't meant to have classy taste, and in fact, some of the buyers would bring in beautiful things and we kept getting dialed back. So, it's really
But
gorgeous.
for the
So,
house, yeah.
but it was a location, and it was, inside and out and same place. And they really did, this farm that we found, this really did raise Angus cattle, beef cattle.
No, awesome.
And I think a few of them made it into the movie. I mean, they had to actually work on cue, one or two of them. So I think they snuck in a couple of cows that were trained. But yeah, this bedroom was wonderful. I mean, this was one of those other ones that had a lot of Easter eggs. The Mighty Crab Joys was a whole photo shoot that we did with, the young lady, I can't, some of them are nepotism relatives
Right.
of producers and directors and things, but they were adorable. And we had a real local punk band in the background to add verisimilitude. And then, yeah, a whole work on with my graphic designer, Kelsey Brennan, coming up with the format and the typeface. And that was a long conversation, really long conversations with James on that, lots of different
It
iterations.
looks very 90s. It looks like, oh, was
Yeah.
this a 90s photo that they just tweaked? So
Yeah.
look, it really reads. Yeah.
It's the whole thing. And then, the translucency of the curtains and the translucency of the window shades, and because he, there's a whole thing about sunrise. And then everything that's on the bulletin boards and NASA posters and,
Yeah.
trophies, because, he was a good kid, and, manly
Medals
plaids,
and
and the dog who wasn't really there. But
was the dog ever there? I'm actually really confused if the dog was ever real. I know what it's James Gunn. I saw a thing where it's like he based it on his own dog, but I don't
yeah,
know if.
but the stand-in dog was a beautifully trained,
Oh, there was.
movie dog.
There.
Jolene was her name,
Oh,
and she was on set whenever Crypto was supposed to be there, and she was beautiful and wonderful, and she would, stand in.
yeah.
And then I think the behavior was probably more based on James Gunn's dog, and I don't know how they do it. I didn't get a chance to talk to my friends in visual effects, led by the incredible Stefan Soretti, but aided admirably by Susan Pickett, the visual effects producer. Really lovely people to work with.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't know how they did it exactly, but the dog is so expressive. Crypto is so expressive. I can imagine, how they do it. I mean, those of us who have been around this stuff and have seen all these performers with dot suits and dots on
Yeah.
their faces. I bet they put dots on whether it was James's dog or some other wonderful dog.
Yeah, to get
And,
this.
for the expressions and for the movement of the ears and the nose and the eyebrows and the tail. And I mean, they did a beautiful job. I mean,
Yeah.
there
It's
was not a
seamless.
moment when you doubted. If you hadn't known how these things are done, they wouldn't think it was a real dog.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that the dog aspect brings not only the comedy but the human like man and dog love and like experience, and everybody who has a dog is just sort of relates in a sense of like, oh my god, my dog would do that, or like, oh my god, sit down, like just sit down, like. So I loved having the dog in there. I think that was such a great touch, and was wondering too about like how if that was a real dog ever on set. So yeah. Did you have any nightmares or like freakouts like what would Clark Kent's bedding be? Because I feel like that would be my freak out of like I would need to really look at a lot. That's my thing. Bedding for me is like a big thing.
You're absolutely right, because it's as important as the costume in that particular set and that particular shot. I mean, not that the costume was in doubt at all, but yeah, I think we had about 6 or 8 choices laying around,
Yeah.
and this combination finally came together.
Yeah.
Um, it was the perfect quiet yet made a statement.
Yeah.
Stripes on plaid, the quietness of the brown and blue. I think we had some stronger options, but it just wasn't working. Because obviously, with any kind of bedding, you need to play second fiddle to the actor or actors that may be playing in your bed. Um, so, so it needs to complement the action, say something, but not too much. So that's kind of what we were going for. The bed itself was another conversation, and it started out as a wooden headboard, and then we kind of found that we were getting too cute and too country and too old fashioned. And we realized, James kept reminding me, listen, he was born 20 years ago or 30 years ago, right? So, and if
Right.
we say it's kind of now-ish, that puts us at maybe the bed was bought,
Late 90s.
yeah, well, early aughts, whatever,
Yeah.
when he turned,
Right. When he's got bigger
he was
feet.
being a baby, right? So, so we actually went and looked in Sears catalogs and things like that and said, well, look at this tubular metal stuff. It's perfect. Let's find something like that. And that helped us because everybody was bringing in stuff that was really ye olde wolde, and it was too ye olde. So there was a lot of like, this is where we need to be. We need to be reflecting the time, even though it's timeless, he still needs to be a product because of the Mighty Crabjoys references and the rock references. There is a certain definition about when he grew up.
Right.
So, we need to follow suit with that stuff. James's scripts are very specific. He writes them early, and other than a couple of dialogue changes, he doesn't revise them much. So he knows what he's going for, and he also creates the storyboards, which are a little hard to read, but because he draws them himself and doesn't use an artist to do it for him. And it takes a little while to understand them, and I still get confused because they're rough. But he knows what he's going for, so it's obviously a pleasure and a terror to work with somebody that specific, because they
Yeah.
really try to catch these references and understand what he's going for.
Yeah. I was
And he's
gonna.
busy, so I don't
Yeah.
always get like these lengthy meetings with him. I mean, I do my best. I do boards, I do presentations, I show him what we're going to do. But again, he's a busy guy. He doesn't every nuance of what I'm talking about either. So, yeah, you just try to be ready on the day with some options and get it as close as you can, and that's how you do it.
I was wondering too with someone that specific because we've all been there, but it's some people will bend and some people won't. You've worked with him before, so you had a clue of like, I know that he's either gonna bend, like, is he a bender or is he like, nope, this is what it is. Like, because if you're finding locations and you're like, well, we can't, can we do that? Because even though it's written, like some writers are like, no, it has to be something else, or creators or showrunners, like it has to be something else. But it's
I wouldn't characterize James Gunn as being on the flexible side of the spectrum.
yeah.
He's pretty specific, and I know that our production designer Beth Mickle, who's a gem, worked really hard finding this house with our location manager Ian. Sorry, having a blank. Good old Ian. Ian's lovely. Uh, Thank you. Okay, here it is. I found it. So Beth Mickle, our lovely production designer, worked with Ian Easterbrook on finding this farmhouse, and they looked at a lot of places.
Mhm.
Because there were very specific blocking requirements and shot requirements, being able to see from one room into the other. As you see here, you're in the living room and you're seeing into a dining room, and it's connected to a front door right behind the chest of the, let's see, is that what that is? I guess that's Clark. Is that Clark or
This is
Grace?
Clark. Yeah, they're watching TV.
Yeah, that's in the scene where they come in
Yeah.
from outside and they're watching the TV. Okay, so very specific things that he's asking for. And he would walk into a house and say, nope, this doesn't have that relationship. And it took a while to find this. We also changed the interior here quite a bit. It happened to be a home where that wasn't being used. It was, whoever was the resident had passed away some years back, and the family hadn't gotten around to doing anything with it or selling it. So we had to some extent some free reign. I think I can't remember if that pillar divider was there. I think it was altered. But anyway, we completely refurnished. There was a couple of things that we kept that we used, but most of it is completely brought in.
I mean, I find it when someone's at when I work on Ryan Murphy shows, that's what he wants. That's what you give him, and it's kind of clear of like, well, then I know what I'm doing. I don't have to, play around. I know that I got to find this and get the closest to the target as we can get, but it has to be in the target. I think there's like this, but it kind of helps, in our world of like, I'm not looking for anything else. This is what I'm looking for type thing. There is a part of me that I resist of like, well, why can't we have more input here? Or like, what am I doing here if I'm just like repeating your words or whatever? But I do,
Well,
I,
Kim, I think you're selling yourself short. Being able to read into what some of this direction is a tremendous skill.
mm,
And being able to interpret it, because you are, no matter what you're doing, you're still doing a selection, and you are still creating a cohesive whole out of this set of instructions that probably isn't as clear as what you're implying. I mean, the instructions I get from James Gunn, it may be clear as a bell in his head, but the rest of us are like, is this or this? I mean, there's a wide spectrum of options that it could be. So trying to get it to the right feel, the right kind of lampshade that's, going to be thinking through when they would have bought it, how they're going to get it, what
yeah,
it would it have been her taste, and in a set like this, you've got family photos to beat the band, which is a whole Megillah,
right.
trying to figure out who's baby Superman and who's baby Clark Kent, and getting family photos from the actors and getting all that organized and then compositing together or doing photo shoots. I mean, that's a whole ordeal in itself.
Yeah.
Then, artwork. Okay, so what do they have? How do is it, and then of course you got to, once you find it or make it or whatever you do, then there's the whole clearance process for all that stuff.
Well,
I mean, I think we had probably um, 4 different sets of dining chairs in mind, in our warehouse by the time we were done. I do a thing where I set the setup in the warehouse before it ever goes to location. I rehearse it, and then I let people, as much as I can, I bring people out to the warehouse. Certainly the production designer, certainly the art director involved in the set. And if I can get the DP to come out, if I can get the gaffer to come out, if I can to the warehouse, if I can get, the director, if I'm so lucky. Um, but at the very least, photographs of that, and then discussions and reviews. And, you know, people take all this. I'm not the only one who takes it seriously. I mean, you got to take it seriously on a movie like this. Every single thing is going to be scrutinized and is going to echo through the film. And an origin story set like this is pretty important to everybody.
oh yeah. When you have even in like your Star Wars work, like every frame is looked at by people who are so into these films, and I love that. I'm sure you do too. I mean, I love when people are like looking at things and looking in the background and noticing things that we spend time losing sleep over putting in there because that's, because we have the passion for it. So I love when people figure something out in the background, or oh, I guess that's why they have that artwork, and but things like that. I love that. And yeah, I mean, I'm with you. If I can set up something or take pictures or something and try to get a key into it, does this work for everybody? That's the bet. I mean, that's always great if we have the time and the resources to do it, because you don't want to get there. I mean, I don't think you're not getting there on the day and that's the first time everybody's seeing the set, though. I feel like you have like some sort of prep, right? I don't know. I feel.
Well, no, I mean, it depends. I mean, there's a lot going on for James Gunn. So whether he's been able to get down there, I mean, it was pretty far to this little spot.
Hmm.
I can't remember if he came in the day before. He might have, but I don't know. I've certainly been around him. I mean, I've certainly been on a set with him on one set on Guardians. We were doing the TV special at the same time, and we were doing a Christmas decorated home. And he got there and he was like, "This isn't nearly enough Christmas lights." And it was like Sol McGilla trying to get more Christmas lights on the day. But yeah, I mean, there, if somebody wants something done differently, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
And having
Just always have more. More. I'd rather more than less. That's how I live these days.
less is actually way easier than more, but on the day. But yeah,
So,
there's always changes. There's always, I don't know. It's just rehearsing things and
yeah.
getting things right. This set, I had some really good buyers and helpers out looking for great stuff and helping me with it.
Yeah.
This was fun. But it just, everything's more work than you might think.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it.
The Lex Luthor office, I could not find a great shot, but he is throwing this beautiful desk of yours, which I'm assuming you had built, or unless you got really lucky with the like 10-foot long table of beautiful
Well, this is a
shape.
desk. So this is Lex Luthor's office in Luthor Corp. And there is a brief shot uh, of it without being thrown.
Yeah.
And then Superman is very angry
Yeah.
because
I got this.
Crypto has been mistreated and by Lex. And so he comes roaring in and very angry and does that throw. So of course the desk itself is just a desk. It's actually a desk that again we found at our dear late friend Mark Meyer's faux library. But that desk has been around. It used to be at Modern Props, and I'm pretty sure now it's back at Warner Brothers. But the throne desk was a copy made by our friends in special effects. Specifically by special effects foreman named Jeff Ogg, who's an old friend of mine who does marvelous work. So you cannot tell that it's not a real desk.
Oh, no, not at all.
And we had lots of interesting objects on the shelves and crazy 1970s style chair and this brown leather and a little lounge. We did lots of stuff that you don't see.
Yeah.
And lots of egocentric pictures of Lex Luthor and all of his scientific inventions. And his mug is sort of a spaceship that he's designed. And the other side says Luthor Corp that our graphics team put together.
His like beehive of where he's working and all the computers are and everything. That's a really fun set because it's like wide, it's all glass and everything, and it's a very like eye in the sky type thing, and you eventually find out why, but that's also an interesting thing of having all of those desks and monitors and everything fabricated for that set was probably
Yeah, we call that the set. We called it the comms hub. I don't remember if it's actually referred to that in the movie, but it was the comms hub, and that set was an enormous job.
Yeah.
We started by creating. I had a set designer, Bria Kinter, who did a wonderful job designing those desks, and that was also a set or directed by Dominic Silvestri. And he had the initial sketches of the layout and the idea of the desks, but then we had to actually draw them very specifically. And that's another one where every single person had a specific function and had specific screens, specific little microphones, specific buttons that they had to do things. And they had to have this very specific seating order. but the room actually gets narrower as you get closer to the front. And so the desks had to change sizes as you got closer to the front. So the front row desks are narrower than the next row and so on, which made it very difficult to interchange when somebody might change their minds about where somebody sat. So what we did to avoid difficulty on the day was that we created foam core versions of these desks,
Oh,
full size. And early on, when we had plenty of room in the warehouse, we set them all up and had James out. And he went through the entire scene, and it was very helpful because that was a lot of very complex fabrication to get those right. And there was a lot of compound surfaces, and they were supposed to look like wood, which is relatively impossible. And there was just a ton of different things that had to be figured out. I also had a gang boss named Jason Olson, who worked with me on finding all of the electronic bits,
mm,
like buttons and screens and handles and
that's a
you know
lot.
steering wheels and all different kinds of stuff that we had to have, and then some incredibly skilled prop makers, Robbie Sadaka and Remington Bedeto and Rob. I'm having a blank. Rob, who helped us manufacture all these things. It took months to make these things.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And then, we found chair frames and then altered them. So lots of things in there. Of course, more than you see. There was a whole reception area that lots of stuff gets cut. There
I
were more
know.
scenes in Lex's office that never made it in and things
We
like
need to have like a design edition the film sometimes of like
that.
just to show you what else was outside those doors that you never opened or all of that. I don't have a picture of the Hall of Justice, but the murals on the wall, but the furniture that you have in there, what was the decision to go with that like mod look, right?
They're a little wacky, the old
Yeah.
Justice Gang. And Beth Mickle really enjoyed the warm tones that were in that set.
Mm.
It's the old train station again in Cincinnati, and it's got some fantastic color in the room already. So we just went to town with the oranges and yellows, and with you know mid-century modern style that was derived out of Art Deco. It's later than Art Deco, but it was derived out of those curving forms. So since that station is classic Art Deco, and the idea is that these guys are being funded by Mr. Lord, the Uber millionaire that's on the kind of good side of the millionaire spectrum. And so they've got nothing but money. And so they got all this custom furniture made. And we made the desks and we designed and made the desks. The furniture, we found a couple of them and made more and reupholstered everything. And it was fun. It was
Yeah.
just, the idea was it was really a fun, kind of loungy.
Yeah, they're not doing anything. I mean, they're like reading newspapers. They're like it's like a hangout, but it's
They're waiting for stuff to
yeah,
happen.
and they have
Yeah.
like stuff like it's unpacked. They haven't really moved. They're still deciding on their name, on their furniture, on yeah, I,
That you got the concept. That
yeah,
was exactly the idea.
yeah. I hope
They're
people like
unpacking and they're not working too quick at any of that.
that. Did you have a favorite set for this film?
Well, you know, set decorators generally focus on the decorating sets like Moravia, which was this beautiful
Yeah, the
Eastern
blues. Oh
European
yeah.
hallway. There's Lois's apartment, that's everybody's, what was that one? And then, this little farmhouse for the character. But, I'm really happy with the way our little red tea craft turned out. That's a spaceship. We
Mm-hmm.
also worked really hard on that transport container thing
Oh
that we call it.
yeah.
I mean, that's a huge amount of citrus.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of deciding shapes, sizes, figuring out what text going to go where. Um, Tons of consoles, like those portable consoles that run that thing. We do all that stuff. And then of course Fortress of Solitude, we built a whole lab, which is unfortunately relegated to one shot, pardon me, where he sees what damage crypto has done to it. But that was going to have more shots, and did have more shots, but they didn't make it into the movie. That was enormous. We made these fantastic. We looked into the whole lore of the Fortress of Solitude, and he had like a dinosaur zoo, and he had like plants from out of space that he would have transported and kept preserved. So we created these giant ice blocks with these wild
Oh, wow.
extraterrestrial plants in them. I mean, it's like a nanosecond in the movie, but we worked on it for months. And we made a lot of really cool lounge furniture. We figured out how to make like crystalline ice tables and like table surfaces by hand. Marvelous craftspeople worked with us on that. I mean, I just had the most fabulous team. So I really enjoy that kind of intricate manufacturing and design and figuring out that a whole lot of set decorators in our world don't get a chance to do. I mean, when I work in England, it's a lot of the big movies they always have fabricators. We're just not as used to it in LA. And it's often seen as simply a sourcing job, but I don't treat it. I mean, that's not what I do. So I mean, it's kind of like asking me what's my favorite kid. I just don't have one. They all take a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of thought. And I'm, really lucky to be able to work on a movie like this where this movie in particular, Superman, everyone was super into it and really,
Oh, that's awesome.
really deeply involved. So that was pretty fantastic.
I am going to do just a minute of talking about a couple of your awesome films because I can't not talk about your history, your resume, your career, who you've inspired me, and I know countless other decorators, whether you're starting out or whether you just watch Superman, you are inspiring. I have to tell you that always. Um, I started to look into it. It like makes me kind of like woozy. The directors that you have worked with. Wes
Yeah, me too.
Wes Craven, Christopher Columbus twice, Kenny Ortega, Wolfgang Peterson, Michael Bay 4 times, Steven Spielberg, Joe Dante, Gus Van Sant, Terrence Malick, Robert Zemeckis, Nancy Myers, Tim Burton, Gore Verbinski 3 times, Tony Scott twice, Peter Berg, Michael Mann, M. Night Shyamalan, Quentin Tarantino, J.J. Abrams, and James Gunn twice. And there's more. But that's like you've covered like the plethora of the talent of directors in the past 20 years. I mean, it's unbelievable that just that look. And then when you go to the designers that you've worked with, Jack Fisk, Rick Carter, John Huntman, Hendricks, Jeff Mann, John Muir, Neil Spesick, I always say that wrong, Nathan Crawley, Jim Bissell, Jeffrey Beecroft, Peter Wenman, I mean, Doug Meredith, Darren Guilford, Ramsey Avery twice. I mean, you've worked with Beth twice. I mean, it's an amazing amount of people to have been in contact with in the universe of film. And you've been able to branch to all of these different genres and all of these different designers and decorators or designers and directors. Like it's I'm in awe when I look at your accomplishments. I really am in awe of you sometimes. I really
Thanks. It's not it's not without. I mean, it's joyful to be able to work with all these incredible geniuses. It's also very complicated. I mean, they're complicated people. I mean, they've got very strong opinions, and they, um, you know, uh, some of them are rather obscure about what they want. Some of them very specific. Some of them are tricky and change their minds. I mean, there's situations where people are in another country while you're prepping and they have come in for a meeting and then suddenly they go away to do all the many other things that they do because some of them are very, very busy people. And then they come back and you've developed some ideas that you thought you were doing right, and they don't want those anymore because they changed the script and they forgot to tell you.
Right.
So a lot of things happen, and so it definitely keeps you on your toes, and it's people sometimes ask me, what do you like, period historical fiction movies or biopics, or do you like romantic comedy, or do you like tech movies, or do you like, current day, action films or superhero movies? They all have a lot to recommend them. And I guess the big privilege for me is not having been pigeonholed.
Mm.
And I don't mean to imply that people who do specialize in, say, tech films or really would rather only do period movies have any flaws. I mean, that's fantastic. I just honestly, I don't even know if it was by choice of mine that my career ended up being so varied, but I'm thrilled that it did. My early theater experience, building sets and doing lights and making props and having to make something out of nothing, ended up serving me well because I was able to focus on the fabrication process pretty early in my career, and it became second nature as I started to do it. Early on, I did the first really big build that I did was the Flintstones. And again, we had set decoration, had an illustrator, had set designers, had builders, had painters, had sculptors, the whole gamut. Um, and that was almost like, I mean, it wasn't early in my career, but it was early enough
Yeah.
that I was still drawing on that super early experience. And um, I think that was wonderful that seed got planted because guess what? I was able to ride a lot of fabricated movies for a long time. But I always loved diving back into historical projects like Cape Flayed or something like that. But that was fantastic working with Quentin Tarantino. One director you didn't have to mention was one of my favorites was John Watts from Spider-Man No Way Home.
Oh,
What an ace of a director. He was something else. Great guy. Really together,
oh, no way, how am I?
really focused and clear and fun to work for. But there's lots of them. I mean, they're all interesting. Um, they all have a completely different tone. I mean, that's the cool thing,
Right.
is they all are completely different. And the set that you've got on the screen now, which is actually from Spider-Man.
I know. I
It's
just realized that I have like the wrong name and I have the wrong.
That's okay. But it's Spider-Man No Way Home is the
Yeah.
name of the movie. And this particular set was the Filipino guy. That's his Nana's home. And that was a lot of fun. What does a Filipino grandma in the
Yeah.
US look like? What does her place look like? And that was just so fun. I mean, every time you get to dive in to a cultural newness, you've talked about this on your podcast, treating that respectfully, absorbing it,
Yeah.
reflecting it, checking it with people that are experts in that particular nationality, culture, religion, whatever it is, avoiding tropes, making it genuine, um, having it feel inhabited.
Yeah.
That's true for spaceships too. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
they have to feel like people live there and work there, and it's got a reality and it makes sense. Sometimes, I mean, a spaceship can be designed by me, by us, by my department. Sometimes I get the design from other people. Uh, Sometimes I just am, you talked about early, or what am I, just, an executor? Sometimes I am, like, somebody
Yeah.
else drew that bench. I didn't have that much to do with it. We just had it made. Um, well, actually, I'm lying. I think construction built those
In
benches, but
Guardians
the,
of the
the
Galaxy.
desks and things like that. I mean, there was, but there's always interpretation along the way, no matter what, no matter whether you're handed an illustration and said, here, make this be. Um, there's always interpretation along the way, because maybe what was drawn was going to fall over,
Right.
and it's going to need some counterbalancing, and maybe it needs more legs, and maybe we've got to figure out a way to do that. Or maybe it doesn't really accommodate the action, because part of
Yeah.
my role is to make sure it's actually going to fit the scene that's written for it or that's rehearsed on it, There's always changes as rehearsals happen. So, part of my responsibility is not to just do exactly what's been drawn. I have to make sure it's going to work on the day.
Because there's other elements in the room that you have in mind or that you're planning to use that if it doesn't work with, also I find that like, oh, this is built this way, but this doesn't really go, can we alter? I know I can alter this. I can't alter what I've chosen here. And if they work together more, that's
Yeah.
one of the great things about fabricating, that you can make changes if time and money are, are allotted, But
Yeah. I mean, I've been working on some larger budget films, but when I, occasionally just a few years ago, I needed to stay in town. I think we were moving or remodeling or something. And I took, you mentioned Doug Meerding, because a lovely production designer. I did a small movie with him, Yes Day, with Jennifer Garner, and it was a small domestic comedy. It was fun. But that was great. I mean, just having, coming down and doing just a normal people's living room it was fun. And, oh gosh, Hocus Pocus. There you go.
I have to ask about Hocus Pocus because it's such a people love that movie and they're so into that there's going to be a part two. I mean,
Well, there was a part two.
Well, that's true. There was part two.
Part two came out. I must admit I didn't see it. But yeah, I mean, the reason why Hocus Pocus is so popular, and when I have young people in my department, and I tell them I did Hocus Pocus, they just about fall down.
Yeah.
But it's because they saw it when they were 2.
Yeah,
well,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All I want to talk to you about is Teen Wolf. Okay, that's all I want to talk about. But I'm not,
Yeah, I don't know if I can remember Teen Wolf, but okay. But yeah, I mean, we made we made a custom cauldron, and we made, beautiful portraits of witches and wonderful. We made a lot of stuff for this movie. Bill Sandell was a production designer. It was a lot of fun, and it was, you know, it was a lot of fun doing Hocus Pocus. We got to go to, Massachusetts and visit all the witch museums and the sailing museums and just all kinds of great stuff. It was a lot of fun. In this film, we had a lot of Halloween decorations because, we go back and forth in history, of course.
Yeah.
And modern day Halloween happens. There's a lot of Halloween decorations. And we had a pact that we would never buy a Halloween decoration. Every single thing was homemade. And the tricky part was pumpkins because we shot so long, we ran out of pumpkin season and they all started rotting in the warehouse. So we ended up discovering back in the day, when they were fairly new, freeze-dried pumpkins.
Oh, wow.
Saved our butts.
Wow. That's the trick because I usually have to I feel like I've done Halloween in like July and August so many times. That's when that episode comes up or whatever. And it's always like, are they ripe yet? Or can we get some? Can we go buy some? So
I'm pretty sure they still make freeze-dried pumpkins.
Oh,
and they
wow.
are
That's a good,
that's fantastic. They are actual pumpkins, so they don't look all like each other.
Yeah.
And it was great.
That's a great tip.
They didn't rot.
How about Amistad? Do you have a memory of that film? It's so
Yeah, Amistad was a dramatically wonderful project for us.
What an impactful
Another
film.
one where we were able to, do some traveling. We were all over the place. I was working with a storied production designer, Rick Carter, with whom I worked with a couple of times, including Star Wars. Rise of Skywalker. So a Spectrum with Mr. Rick Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is amazing. I mean, this was very specific period, 1840. We were shooting all over the East Coast as well as on stage in LA, all on ships all over the place. I had the opportunity to do everything from the Queen of England to the President of the United States to middle level lawyers' office. This is John Adams' library, the picture you have here, all the way down to slave ships and African plantations and slave markets. We shot in Puerto Rico. That's where I first worked in Puerto Rico many eons ago. And so the spectrum of 1840 that I had to learn about and portray, because the thing about an era is that you have that wide variety of slices in every era, so and nationalities. So this was a wide-ranging movie. And I had to learn about argon lamps, which is what you see here. The transition between whale oil and other kinds of oil. Just it was really a project of discovery. I was lucky enough early on to be in Rhode Island, and I went over to Winterthur, which is an amazing museum and garden, and they have the most wonderful exhibits of different periods of American history, especially decorative arts. And the curator was so kind, and he gave me this whirlwind tour of everything 1840, and I was so grateful. It was like, oh my God, because you can read about it and read about it and read about it, but when you've got it in front of you and he can tell you the difference between this is 1840, that's 1830, that's 1860, don't make the mistake of putting 1860 and 1840. You can put 1830 and 1840, you can put 1800 and 1840, but don't go to 1860. And explaining the differences between the fuels, because it completely changed the lighting at this period in dramatic ways. So
see the things we learn. It's an amazing job. This is one of the best things I love about this job is the research. I love it. I love researching things I would have never had an interest in or anything, and just learning and the day-to-day life, like you're saying, like how it changed their light. Like that's a crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a series of books by a guy named Witold Rubinski that I find to be wonderful for understanding how people live. Material history impacts their environments and how they live. Like, did they have a lot of stuff? Did they not have a lot of stuff? I mean, what we do, it's really important to know what's real. And then a director or a designer may want to tweak that a bit. On this film, I remember being schooled a little bit by Rick Carter. There was a big fancy dinner scene that we shot in one of the mansions in Newport, Rhode Island. And I was going to town researching the fabulous ancient, period cookbooks and period decor books or publications that were all drawn. There's no photography yet. And the beautiful cakes and the beautiful floral decorations between the chandeliers and just fabulousness. And he just turned to me and went, "Don't go over the top." Steven Spielberg's not going to like it. It's going to distract from the point. So I just went, I was so excited.
Fine, I'll take it home. No,
beautiful, but I mean, it was still beautiful, believe me, but it was a good lesson. And it really was, it goes back to what we were talking about the bed for Superman. The movie is not about the bedspread.
No.
The movie is not about the dinner table. The movie is about the conversation. So support the conversation in every way you can, and you'll be golden.
What about Castaway?
Well, Castaway is a movie that I shared with the lovely and amazing Karen O'Hara. So I did the part that was before he went to the island.
Oh, you're the. I was like, I took a chance. There's an island shot on the screen.
She did an incredible job on the island. And then she went on to do What Lies Beneath with Robert Zemeckis, and I did not. So we did a FedEx plane that crashed. Right. We did a FedEx facility. We did a house where Tom Hanks, there was a big Thanksgiving dinner scene. Right. I can't even remember all the sets we did, but we did this sort of before he gets, we did the plane crash, but we didn't do the aftermath of the plane crash where he's cast away on an island. So it was wonderful to be able to split that with such a fine colleague.
Yeah. Well, I love that movie. I've watched it too many times. How did you like doing Psycho and trying to duplicate a classic? How was that? I'm talking about pressure. I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, Gus Van Sant's a really interesting guy, and watching the original movie was fun. I watched it a whole lot of times, and and I mean, we took a little bit more liberty than you might think in terms of the set, but and ours was much updated. It wasn't the exact sets that were the same by any means.
So it's still I mean, you still were able to like redo Psycho. Like that's an amazing feat in itself. Like,
well, again, it's selection.
It's your interpretation of it, but it's still
it was an interpretation.
Awesome.
So we didn't copy. I mean, some things. You remember the old House of Props that went out of business some years ago?
Yes.
They actually had some stuff from the original Psycho, which was fantastic. there was some, there was a particular kind of Victorian, mourning, art of mourning, like they were really into, because a lot of people died of either dread diseases, wars, civil war, you name it. And civil war was so damaging, so many people died.
Mm.
So there was a grief industry, and there were these folded hands that you find in various ways, and these were folded, they were little bronze folded hands on
Oh
a
yeah.
pillow that were, kept in people's boudoirs or something to remember their poor departed relative. And these hands were that were in the original Psycho. There they were at House of Drops. So that was pretty fun. And I think there was some other things, some statues and some things like that. So when we could, we would put them in as an homage. But our brief, I was working with um, I was working with Tom. God, I can't remember the name of the person. Anyway, Tom Tom Foden was the production designer, and he actually really was pushing the envelope to go different.
Mm.
And then the director and Gus Van Sant was kind of reeling him in. There was a little bit of a back and forth on that conversation. It was interesting. But yeah, it was interesting. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's always going to be a check-in table, which is
Yeah.
this motel check-in table. But I don't think it looks like the original one at all.
I mean, it's a different version, but it's
Yeah.
I don't I feel like if an opportunity came like that to me, I would jump on it, and then I would be like, "Oh shit." Like, oh. All right. Like I feel like I would
Well,
have like, "Oh no.
honestly,
This is supposed to be exciting and now I have all this pressure."
well, the hardest part of that movie for me was that when you go into the basement, our basement was quite different than the basement in the original Psycho, but there's a taxidermy theme that
Yeah.
also comes from the first movie, and we were meant to have a taxidermied owl
Right.
in it because that was in the original Psycho. Now it turns out that you can't even have a taxidermied owl even if it's old anymore, because it's sort of like eagles are protected.
Ah.
So it's a thing. So it
Bischoff's
was,
didn't have an owl for you?
well, if they had, they wouldn't be allowed to
They
rent it.
right, oh. Well.
So we had to create a taxidermied owl, which took a few tries. Let's just put it that way.
Now I know. Now you know. Now you know why there's no taxidermy owls in films. It's not you can't have it.
Yeah.
Who knew? See?
So
Who knew?
then,
Who knew? Did you have fun on Public Enemy?
well, it was actually called Public Enemies.
Enemies. Oh.
But yes, I did. It was in Chicago and Wisconsin. And we actually shot in the original. Sorry, that's my dog waking up from a nap.
I know I just let mine
We
in.
shot in the we shot in the original cab, like getaway hotel, where John Dillinger, Johnny Depp as John Dillinger, where the actual John Dillinger holed up, and then was tremendously shot up by
Right.
the nascent Secret Service or whatever. So we shot
Wow.
there. We shot all over Chicago. We built a few sets in Chicago. Shot prisons. It was a really complicated movie, and that we had hardly any prep on,
Mm.
and it was really fast. I got to work with Nathan Crowley. It was amazing, but it was all really quick.
Yeah.
And the 1930s thing. I mean, Michael Mann is from Chicago, very specific about certain areas of Chicago. His father was a grocer. He got all over me like flies on rice because I wasn't stacking the cans correctly in the window of the grocery store next to the theater, which is where Depp was killed.
Outside.
So, I mean, it's just, some of these guys are complicated. They're some people. I mean, you talked about specificity from a director. Michael Mann is a very specific man.
Mm.
So, and we prepped this really fast. I brought truckloads of stuff from LA, got truckloads of stuff from all over the place, collectors of this kind of office furniture that was from the early century, all the steel casey stuff, steel, whatever the name of the place, those
Steel case,
those
right?
fabricators of the early metal furniture for offices.
Yeah.
I've had to have my brain stuffed with so much information, I can't remember their
believe
names
me,
anymore.
I
It's
hear
like,
you.
what's the name of that furniture company? I mean, all I could think about was the name of that furniture company for 3 months, but now I can't remember.
Sturkeys?
But so yeah, I mean, you get to be an expert on lots of things on every
Yes.
project, and it's a lot of fun looking at old pictures because it's like, oh yeah, look at that.
I'm not gonna keep you too much longer, but I have to ask you about Star Wars because to me, that is that's my like that would be the ultimate for me to work on anything Star Wars. And so how were you in the project? Were you nervous about taking over a Star Wars film or were you like
Uh-huh.
well, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah, it was really a lot. I mean, you had, first of all, I did not, nurse at the mom of Star Wars. I had to learn it, and I had to learn everything because I had seen them, but I hadn't absorbed them all. And it was a very, very wonderful happenstance that I got the job, that I got to go to England, live in England for over a year, work with an amazing crew that had been doing them. So thank God. At least some of them. My prop master is Jamie Wilkinson. Hardly my prop master. He is the prop master for Star Wars, and he continues to work on things connected to this franchise and many other incredible films. So the prop master in England is an equivalent to A prop master, B lead person, C head of fabrication.
mm,
So it's a completely different job. And set decoration is larger also because you're in charge of the job is bigger. You do all hardware down to the hinges, and that includes like made up hardware, like spaceship stuff.
right.
Um, all consoles. I mean, this is from design to execution. This is all the way through. So I had like 175 people working for me. We're also in charge of graphics. The graphics team works for SetDec for the movie.
Oh wow.
And I had a large art department of my own. And then, of course, the buying team, assistant set decorators, the whole prop making teams, painters, carpenters, sculptors. It was 175 people most of the time.
Wow.
So, and we were in several countries. We were in London as well as Jordan. And we built a new civilization in Jordan with tents, and it was a religious
Oh, those
celebration.
tents.
And
Yeah.
that was like, I had this huge drapery team. Um, we covered a quarter of an acre of the desert um, uh, um, um, in Jordan, the Wadi Rum, which is a beloved national park that many people have visited on their trips to Jordan. Um, it's incredible. Quarter of an acre full of tents that we made in our drapery shop and in our elf shop, like people making all kinds of stuff. Puppet tents and food tents and trinket tents and hangout tents. And these things were huge. And drawing them, conceiving of them, having concept artists. I mean, this is an enormous effort, from the first order spaceships to the rebel environments to this particular set is in the snowy city, as it's called. It has a name. And this is the basement of the robot workshop.
Yeah, the
Excuse me,
droid.
the droid workshop. I
Droid.
do that mistake sometimes. And for this one, we manufactured like a zillion robot legs and robot arms and robot heads and robot parts. And there's Easter eggs all over the place. People troll this set and say, I can't believe there's a red bad robot in that set. That's such an obnoxious little Easter egg. And it's like, well, hello,
Well,
that's the director.
yeah.
It's his and there were all kinds of little Easter egg robot droids in the set, and then the oil bath and all that stuff. So it does go on. I mean, there was a lot of complicated things. We also redid the interior of the Tatooine.
Yeah.
We made it just goes on.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There's so
The
many
stuff you have
sets.
to learn.
There's so
The
many
stuff
sets in
you
that
have to
film.
learn. It's dramatic.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Well, especially when it's not real history. It's someone making it. I mean, that's even harder, I feel like, to learn the history of like Star Wars and all of that besides like opening a book of, 1860 or 1830, like there's a
Well,
difference.
it's kind of is a history. I mean, and because it's equally complicated, if not more so. And you have to learn it. You have to
Oh
learn the
yeah.
logic behind it. You have to learn the lines, the linear languages of the different cultures, because there's a linear language for the First Order. There was actually two production designers in the end, Kevin Jenkins and Rick Carter. Kevin Jenkins was promoted from being the like supervisor of illustration um, for Lucas, and he ended up being a wonderful source of information. Like he showed me and sort of schooled me on how it all came out of NASA, early NASA, because some of the German scientists had come over and helped, and designers like graphic designer
Right.
type people who had been working in, engineering and things like that, came over and ended up designing. Like panels for NASA spaceships early, so that the astronauts wouldn't be confused if the cabin got smoked up or the lights were all off,
Mm,
or there would be like lines around every little panel of controls with a certain logic, and that was absolutely brought in because George Lucas hired some of these guys to work for him. And I mean, the lore is in the books, but I had never read it. So it was great to know all that. It is like learning history. Um, and then the style of the resistance and the rebellion. You can even go to the Disneyland and see the swooping wires and
yeah.
all the things that you have to do, but you have to interpret them in a way that's original and new and cool. In my Skywalker, my Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. I probably I worked a lot with textiles. I was having a lot of fun trying to come up with something different. And the other thing I tried to de-emphasize was using things from India,
Mm,
because a lot of the set decorators, and it looked great, but I just wanted to do something different. Used a lot of things straight out of India because it's like the exotic. It looked
right.
exotic.
Right.
But I just said, I mean, believe me, we used some things from India, but I tried to get away from it. I tried to come up with something a little different. And I think we were pretty successful.
Oh yeah. It's such a great. I just showed the boys had seen the original 3 and they love the Jabba the Hutt stuff. But then I was like, there's more movies. There's when, Scott he was a little boy and I tried to explain that these actually came first and then I had to like draw it. And then I was like, these are the last movies. These are you want to go to the and so we watched most of them, they play a little bit in between, but the big scenes and everything. So they've seen basically all 9 of or 3, yeah, 9 of them. They love Star Wars. I guess I've turned them into little dorks, but it's fine. I don't care. They loved it. So,
That's a lot of viewing hours.
yeah. Well, not in like one weekend. This is over time, but yeah. Believe me, they play in between. It's in the background, but they still love it. It's still a great series with, it's still the sword playing and, all the dark and light and the good and the bad and, you know,
It's awesome.
they
I
love
mean,
it.
and they did a great job on it. And those guys that make that make the droids, the creature shop, are incredible. Um, they're just amazing. They're
Yeah.
inspiring.
Um, The Kingsman, it's such a fantastic film also. I mean, and that's what you did right before Superman? Was that?
No, that was some years back. That was during my England phase, because I was in Atlanta for like four
Oh,
films in a
Captain
row
America
for
was what you did
those
before
5
that.
years. And
Right.
before that, I did Yes Day, which was my LA little movie. Before that, I did Star Wars. Before that, I did another little movie in LA, similar. I was
Hotel.
selling, remodeling house, something. And then Kingsman was also in England before that. So that came out in 2017. So that was with my friend, the designer, Darren Guilford, and director Matthew Vaughn, and who conceived of this concept. And this was the second in the series. And yeah, the conceit is that, I mean, you may know the story. It's the Kingsmen are a highfalutin British nobility looking bunch of guys who hide in plain sight, but really they're
They're really fun
action.
movies. They're really,
Yeah, they're fun. But
really
there's a
fun.
lot of,
Yeah.
cartoonish violence, and some people object to that, but that's what he does.
Yeah.
Very funny film.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a good,
Julianne Moore was great as our villain in that, because we made this huge set, Poppy's Village, or Poppy, whatever we call it. And she was exiled out to Southeast Asia someplace, and she lives in this jungly mountaintop, but she's created this 1950s city for herself that's all fake and has a beauty salon. It's all 1950s, and the big set is a diner interior. And so we built facades and neon and movie theaters, and it was crazy.
That's a lot of
So there was a
builds.
lot of big builds on it. This
Yeah.
particular set that you have a picture of is when the Kingsmen come. They made an alliance with a group, similar group in the United States. That is, their cover is that they're a whiskey distillery in Kentucky, and so this is the Kentucky Whiskey Distillery conference room.
Yeah. I love the tone on tone and like the hugeness of the room, and that the nice wide shot of like showing how different all of your films are. I'm just, and trying to get these pictures to thinking like, oh my gosh, there's just so many different times and so many different styles, and you just have gotten to do so many. It's so awesome. I
I've
love
had
it.
a lot of good help over the years, I can tell you that much. Certainly don't do it alone.
All right, last one. I know I'm kept you so long, but I have to ask you about Hateful Eight. Was it awesome? Was it hard? Was it?
Hateful Eight's awesome. I mean, Quentin Tarantino is a really interesting guy. And he's got a lot of great ideas, and he's wonderful with the actors. He creates this incredible tone on the set. Nobody can bring a cell phone anywhere near him. You've got to check it at the door. He's got a PA specifically organized to keep people off their
Nice.
phones. And it's real. Everybody pays attention, and everybody feels like it's um, a real artistic space
Right.
on the set. We were in Telluride, Colorado, or near there anyway. We were staying in Telluride, and we drove a while to get to our site, where we built this beautiful, huge sort of lodge, which was like a stagecoach stop. The idea is that it's around 1870, so it's after the Civil War, and the themes are coming out of the Civil War, from the racism and the hatred and the death and all of that stuff. And so it's got a really rich and interesting backstory. And,
Yeah.
Again, plenty of violence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we had a wonderful time kitting out the stagecoach. I mean, we rented a stagecoach, but had to be quite changed. We did a beautiful tooled leather backdrop for, behind the heads. And we did like new
Oh,
like
yeah.
leather shades and luggage and all this kind of stuff. Worked with Drew. Actually, the prop master was Don Milojevic, and shared the luggage thing, and just a lot of things had to happen, because it was almost like
It was
a
almost like a,
stage play in
yeah, it's almost
some.
like a play because a lot of it happened. I mean, almost all of it happens in this one
Right.
lodge.
So my theater experience again comes into handy, because you realize that you can make a decision where a big fur is going to be thrown over a beam, but it might be in the way of a later scene. So it's this whole rehearsal process trying to
Right.
figure out where everything's going to be. And the stunts. Quentin is famous for
And the blood.
blocking out his stunts in advance, but I will say that no disrespect intended, but that might be a slight exaggeration. So there was a lot of figuring out
Figure
what's
it
going to
out
be
on the day.
enacted on the day or a
Yeah.
couple days before, and lots of refabrication of slip covers or something.
I'm sure that would be my
Blood goes
lot
everywhere.
of blood.
And Quentin has his own
Yeah.
specific blood
Yes.
formula at whatever blood place he gets it from, and there's a lot of it. And also, when we were shooting this, we shot it in. We shot the exterior and interior on the mountain in Telluride. It happened, unfortunately, to be a very warm winter, so he wasn't getting the snow
Oh.
that he wanted. So I can't remember if it was in the cards in the beginning, but it became pretty evident that we were going to have to rebuild this whole cabin interior on stage, pack it up over like a long weekend. This is a big cabin. This is not just a
Yeah.
cabin. This
It
is a
was
big
huge.
space. And redress it all in LA, and then he refrigerated the stage to like 32 degrees or something during the summer. So it was hot. So that was another adventure that we had. But one of my favorite sets here, we had a beautiful barn that we did. It was so stark and gorgeous. But this was a lot of fun. I had, again, some incredible help on this.
Yeah, you have a ton
Really,
of dressing and like period dressing and
yeah.
cups and hanging and
Yeah,
like
lots
a
of great
country
stuff.
store.
I had Karen Frick and Alex Brandenburg, my niece, helped me with it. A bunch of wonderful people as well. Graphics was huge again. I I really like having my own graphics department. It makes a huge difference. I know a lot of set decorators don't get to have that privilege, but it's just I really don't like to be at the bottom of anybody else's do list. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and when the work starts to multiply, people really underestimate the importance of graphic design, and so they tend to underfund the area. And
Yeah.
there's usually maybe one, maybe two people doing it for the whole art department, and it's never enough. Those people are always under the gun, and
No.
graphics just snowballs. I mean, it's
It
so
comes up and then you have one more meeting and then something else comes up and oh, we need to cover this or let's get a specific calendar or whatever it is. It does. It's always last minute.
Yeah, and this is a store, so there's just all this period packaging that we had to manufacture. So, and Quentin, of course, was making up brands, so he had specific Easter egg ideas that he had. So there's lots of that too.
That's fun. I have kept you way longer than I promised. I'm sorry, but I had to ask about all this wonderful films that you've done. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you being able to talk about it. And I loved Superman. I would go see it again. I have off. I might go see it again. I don't know.
I hope you will. It's a really fun film.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of it. I'm proud of all of us. It was a big group effort.
Congratulations. It's really super film.
Thank you, Anne.
I really can't thank Rosemary enough for giving me all that time, talking about Superman, letting me dork out a little about her career, because I think it's important for anyone starting in decorating or, anyone seasoned even, to hear about people's careers and how you have this longevity and you get to be diverse and all of the things that you get to do as a decorator. It's an amazing job, and I'm very happy and proud to be a part of this community. So I can't thank her enough for coming on and giving me that time. Don't forget to subscribe and rate this podcast because it helps me out a lot. I don't think you get that. It helps me help me help you help me. How about that? Yes, rate this podcast on whatever platform you are listening. If you want to leave a comment that's positive, go for it. Check out the decorating page's YouTube. I've got to get those subscribers up, people. So go over to the YouTube channel and subscribe. It has all of these visuals of mostly all of the last 2 years of all of the interviews. You can picture pages. You can look at what we're talking about. And thank you for listening. And I know you got an earful, because I know you got a big earful on this one. So thank you for listening.